Before we continue with the application, we need to add a few things through Swagger, so to test a few things. Right now we have products grabbed from Mongo and then displayed here, but if we want to start adding our own or editing them and changing them and so on, or deleting them in that case, we need to have an administration panel, or just admin for short. And in here I will create a add product at the top and then list the current products down here so you can change those. As you can see, they vary depending on which one we are at. So we're going to implement this, so a login system or an authentication system. You can see I'm logged in right now on the original one, so this is not where I am, of course. This is just to show. So we need to create a login system where we can log in and log out and register. But before we get this, we need to go to Swagger to test a few routes, of course. So make sure if you're doing an online one that you switch to servers, so you're not on the local one. And you can see over here these padlocks or whatever locks here, right? They are declaring that some things you need to be authorized to actually use. So if you want to delete or update products, you need to be logged in for this. You can't just, as we did now, fetch the products without anything really. You need to have be an authorized user to actually do this up here. So if you scroll down, there's two here in the user routes, right? And we're just going to test first with the register user. So we're going to try this out. And here you can see there's 5 different things, right? ID, name, email, password, and register date. We don't need the register date because the system will create the timestamp for this one, so we don't have to do this. So it would be weird for us to do this. And ID, the Mongo will create its own ID. So in the collection, I forgot what it is, something ID. So we're just going to do name, and we'll do test 3 because I did it previous before, and I forgot to record. And then test 3 here, and test.com. So remember the email because we're going to use this in a little bit. And then a password 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So actually I'm going to do this. I will be doing test 3, but I'm just going to give you 2 examples of errors. So I'm going to show you some of the things we can use this for. I'm going to hit here, I'm going to get an error. So we get a 400 out if you scroll down, and this one is really not super easy to see what the issues are, but I know what they are because I've done them before. So if you scroll back up here and you look at this code, if this was a JavaScript object, this would be fine. There would be no issue. But since this is a JSON code or object, they don't really handle these comma separations well if there's no data here, right? So it is expecting the data or some data like created by when we have this. So you need to delete the final comma if there's no data after it, otherwise it'll give you an error. So let's try this again and we'll get a new error. No, that actually worked. So okay, that's enough. So we actually created a user now. I was expecting an error. I thought it was we needed to have 6 of these for names, but I guess 5 is enough. Oh, there is 6, that's why. So if I only created with 6 names, I would have gotten an error. Apparently I can't count. So this created an error, a user, and now we can go down to the login down here and we can actually test the user. I'm going to cancel this and try it out. And then we just take our email that we created, so I can just paste this in, and then the password 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 I think it was, otherwise I'll get an error. I'll just make an error, do 9, click execute, and then we get a 400, and then here Søren has been so kind to write out the script for the error handling. So whenever we throw a new error, we can see password is wrong, and that's why it's up here. And then I can remove this one, and I can do the same with the email here, but I don't need to. But I'm going to click execute, and we're now logged in. So here we get the user ID, that's the word, the name, and this is the token we're going to use to authenticate. So the JWT or JavaScript Web Tokens, right, which Søren creates in video. So they're great for authentication. It's two-way. So now we know that this system works before we even start to try to implement it into our application. There's no point to implement it in if we can see it doesn't work, right, if there's issues with it. So I'm going to go up in here and clear, because I'm going to use this structure here So I'm going to go up here and copy this inside the register one, inside the route, because this is exactly what we need in our system. Because we're using TypeScript, we are going to declare the type and then use this instead of having to rewrite this out more than once in our system. So if you locate your interfaces.ts file, I'm just going to create something else. So something new, export type user, and equal, and then the and then I can actually just paste this in because I think it was actually an object. Yes, it was. So I can remove this, all these, what they're called. Yes, these apostrophes. If you remove all of them, because we don't need any. You can also write it yourself if you're really, really lazy, or not lazy. So since this is very, very similar to each other, the only thing was the apostrophes. This will create our type in you, or if you wanted, you can create an interface as well. But it just indicates that an ID is a string, name is a string, everything is a string basically. But now we're using TypeScript to declare this, so it's better for development, and should be harder to make errors whenever you code this one. Good. See you in the next video for progress.